is The Art of Wrestling with professional wrestler Colt Cabana.
It's Colt Cabana.
All right, how you guys doing? Come on in, sit down, relax, have a beer. This is The Art of Wrestling, a professional wrestling podcast. It's a life podcast. It's a personal journal. It's an entryway into the minds, the souls, the hearts, and the lives of the people involved in the world of professional wrestling. I am your host. My name is Colt Cabana. Hello. I am a fringeman. As we learned before the show, I'm not much of a vocabulary. Or a vocabularist, a talker, a linguist, a cunnilinguist. I'm all right at that. I don't like to brag. Most importantly, though, I am a professional wrestler. And what comes after that? Oh, fuck. And we are sitting here live in the studio. 24! Right here in beautiful Edinburgh, Scotland, not to be confused with my apartment live in the studio. Oh, fuck, man. Oh, before we go any further, this is a life-supported. This podcast. I am on life support here on this podcast. It's a fan-supported, kind-supported podcast supported by people just like you. We give it to you free of charge every single Thursday on ColtCabana.com, SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever you're listening to your podcast from. A couple great ways that you can support, rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Tell a friend, let somebody know, tweet it out, Periscope it out, Facebook it out, tweet it out, tout it out, right? I always like when I read the headlines in WWE, it says like, WWE touts how great they're doing. And it's like, oh, that's not what you mean, but I know what you mean. You thought that was going to be a thing, but it is not. You're still trying to hold on to those tout verbs that you're bragging about. But the best way that you can support, ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com, t-shirts, buttons, pictures, posters, DVDs, digital downloads. That's all available. Of course, after the show, I'm going to be over there at ColtMerch.table/corner/scary corner. Hyphen, hopefully lights are on when I'm over there. Okay, this is the third week. This is the last week at the Fringe doing the podcast. Yeah. Sad days. I'm going to miss you. I have had a great time. Obviously, it has gotten to me by the way I opened this show. That's apparent. I do want to talk about some things. What was I going to say? Things I've learned at the Fringe. Brendan and I have done our show every single night in a yurt. I've learned that yurts can be seconded or dubbed as Punjabi prison matches. Especially my yurt. It just looks like a giant Great Khali. Like I feel Great Khali is going to come in and beat me again and just embarrass me all over again. I remember when Great Khali, I wrestled him, and his finishing maneuver was pick a man up over his head and then just throw him down so he didn't have to do anything. And I remember, if you can go back and watch on YouTube, I didn't get too high on his pick a man up and throw him down. And he was very mad at me afterwards. Probably got me fired, I'll be honest. Allegedly, I have to say that now. Sorry. That's part of the podcast vernacular. That vernacular? Anyone want to correct me on that one? Vernacular. Yep, that one. Probably part of that one. And yeah, he was mad at me that I didn't pick him up, and I was like, "You are 7'7", 500 pounds of pure Indian muscle. I think you could lift me up a little bit." But no, he sat in a corner and cried that his victory over Scotty Goldman didn't look so amazing. Things I've learned. Hulk Hogan. Such an easy topic. Still hilarious. I have done other shows while I've been at the Fringe, and it's been a real fun time. So it's not just my show. While you're here, for the ones that don't know, while you're at the Fringe, there's like 4,000 other shows going on. And I did a show called Gamer Gamer, hosted by Jim Smallman, who was a part owner of Progress Wrestling. And I played video games, and then they asked me what my favorite video game was, and I brought it on the screen, and it was American baseball, and I realized that nobody related to me at all. And then I was actually playing Brendan. I beat his ass in Street Fighter. It was so amazing. Just smashing those buttons. No clue what to do. Beat him. Then they brought up a 9-year-old kid, and I watched Brendan show no mercy on a 9-year-old child. And I did not watch Brendan beat him at no mercy. I watched him show no mercy and then get in this guy's face, this little kid's face, get in his face and goes, "What's my fucking name?" The 9-year-old kid goes, "I have no clue." I was on Late and Live last night. For those of you familiar with Late and Live, that's the 1 a.m. show where everybody just gets pissed drunk. And then comics come up. I never consider myself a comic, but Brendan, in the lazy state of his mid-40s here at the Fringe, decided to bring me up to where a lot of you guys last week, one of my guests was John Robertson. And for those who heard last week's or was here last week's podcast, yeah, John's he's an odd fella. And on stage, I knife edge chopped the shit out of him. We played a game. We played Do or Die. Almost like the Gong Show, Live or Die. And the comedians would tell jokes, and if the crowd didn't like him, I would take their shirt off and I would chop them. And John, the sadistic fuck that he is, on purpose just told the stupidest knock-knock joke, wanting to be chopped by him, wanting me to chop him. And then after one, it wasn't enough for him. He asked for 4 more. And on this comedy show, we watched a man bleed from his chest. Later, I found out him and his wife totally into the S&M scene. And then it started making a lot more sense. And then yesterday I was on a podcast, Tony Jameson's podcast, which was called My Life as a Football Manager. My Life Playing Football Manager. You guys know what that is? That's a thing. And I thought it was American football, so I got on the show, and it was not American football. And then I said, "Oh no, I know one soccer player, Ricardo?" 5 minutes later, he goes, "Do you mean Ronaldo?" And then they picked a team for me. They asked me, so I said what kind of team I would want. And then kind of like the wrestling spirit, I wanted an underdog. I wanted somebody who wasn't owned by like a billionaire piece of shit. And then they asked, right? And then they go, "Well, what colors do you want?" And I go, "White people?" For the joke. Anybody would be welcomed on my team. But then later I found out I was Norwich. That was my team, Norwich. Do I sound like a Norwich guy? Does anybody give a shit? If it's not Wrestling Cult, we don't give a fuck. And I feel the same way. I say we start the show. What do you say? All right, let's bring up my first guest. He is here on the Fringe. He is an amazing stand-up comedian. He's a wrestling supporter. He's also the voice of Comedy Central in America. We'll talk about that. I don't think that translates over here. Please welcome Kyle Kinane. Oh, I'm sorry. He's also Bob Seger.
Today I'm Bob Seger.
If you could see by his T-shirts, it's me. Have you walked down the street and someone said,
I think they know as much about Bob Seger as you do about foreign football.
Yeah, I know nothing about Bob Seger.
You know nothing about Bob Seger?
Is that
Get out of this country.
Oh.
Even though we're not in America, get out of this one too.
Is that nightlife? Nightlife.
Oh, Jesus.
Lights? Oh, man.
It's night moves.
That's it.
Night moves. Talking about those night moves. Heck no, I was in, and then this goes the opposite way of like a tough Midwestern singer. A bunch of comedians got together last year and made a musical about the fictional life of Bob Seger, and each comedian came up and sang a different song as a different version of Bob Seger. And I was Roll Me Away, Bob Seger. It's when I picked up a dirty waitress and took her away from her terrible life.
Also, every wrestler ever. Do you know that they make, that's a thing, especially in the 80s, that was a thing where wrestlers would make music videos.
I remember some of those. Well, not specifically, but I knew that was a thing.
That was a thing. And there was also a thing over here in Europe where I wonder where this translates, but like 80s wrestling was super popular, and then Europe was like, oh, we shouldn't do where the guys just lay on the mat for like an hour. We should like start doing WWF 80s style. And then if you guys remember, there's a CWA, the German guys made like one of the weirdest music videos ever. Okay.
A weird music video out of Germany?
Yeah.
No.
There was also a song called Jive Soul Bro.
That sounds racist.
Do you remember the manager Slick?
No.
Big, tall, black dude.
Yeah.
Named Slick. He played a pimp.
Well, what a stretch for Slick.
Yes. Where does your wrestling memory, it's got to be like your childhood, yeah?
Yeah, it was my childhood, and I dip into a little bit here and there. I have friends that are really into it. That's why I think it's funny now, and it's great that it's huge and it seems very popular now. But I have a bunch of friends that are like, we're going to SummerSlam, and I'm like, I can't go that weekend. I'm going to go Bigfoot hunting. They're like, whatever, nerd. And I'm like, I can let you flex your imagination one way, but I can't go the other way and look for mythical creatures. That's not fair.
Also, there was a wrestler named Giant Gonzalez who was 7'6" and wore the outfit of Bigfoot. So is that a thing? Bigfoot hunting?
Yeah, I'll just go camping with like just optimistically hoping for an experience. I know it's probably not real, but I think life's more fun if you allow your imagination to take over instead of just the facts of what the world is.
Wait, are you talking about Bigfoot hunting?
I'm talking about
or
the
professional
world.
wrestling.
That's my contribution to this.
Yes.
Is that's why it's a mutual appreciation. That's like sometimes you can be right and sometimes you can be fun, and those are separate things sometimes. And people that walk around, wrestling's fake and ghosts aren't real. You're like, oh, good. I'm glad you got answers. Get out of my house. You seem like a drag. You know.
No, but tell me about like what you think about when do you have a childhood memory or wrestling on the TV?
Honestly, wrestling was 2003, 2004 for me because I just moved to Los Angeles from Chicago to pursue comedy, and completely broke and had enough money to get like a 6-pack of beer and then watch the tiny TV that me and I'm sure Matt Bronger, fellow comedian, we were roommates, and we would just Friday nights just watch wrestling on TV. Like that's what we could afford to do, and we're just like. When it didn't seem like at that era, I didn't know anybody else that was into it. Like the resurgence seemed to come a few years later for the comedians that I knew that got into it.
2003 was a dip year.
Was it?
Like Eddie Guerrero and
Somebody tell me why that's funny. I don't know what happened. There's a guy we can't say.
It's a guy that murdered his family.
Oh yeah, I remember that guy.
That guy.
Good thing we didn't say his name. we just didn't. It was that one guy. Yeah. But no, it was like I think Rey Mysterio was big, and the stuff I couldn't believe.
Was he though?
I don't know. Oh, I see the pun.
There it is.
Well, because I couldn't believe, I'll watch wrestling, it's pretty fun. And then the Mexicools would come out. I was like, this is the most racist thing I've ever seen. Except they would win, because then they were the hero. I'm like, now I'm confused, because I feel bad that these guys are coming out on riding lawnmowers in America where there's already a heated debate about the border and everything. And this guy's like, look at we are. I'm like, you're better than that. And then they kick everybody else, and they kick everybody ass. And I'm like, yeah, Mexicools, I love these fucking guys. I'm like, wait, am I celebrating a negative stereotype, or am I celebrating a champion? I don't know how to feel about myself.
I love that you remember the Mexicools. Out of everything, you don't remember.
I remember the results of that guy's actions.
Sure.
I just didn't know the name.
Yeah. So the Mexicools came out on a giant. Like back in the day, what would it be like? Yeah, WrestleMania 3. They came to the ring. I don't know if you ever seen those clips in the Pontiac Silverdome. They came to the ring in those like moving mini rings, and you see like Andre the Giant, because obviously Andre the Giant couldn't walk 100 feet to the ring. And the Mexicools had a lawnmower. They came on a lawnmower.
Yeah, with Mexican flags hanging off it. I was just like, is anybody watching this? Is anybody critiquing this? Because I thought it was in great fun, but anything that's in great fun will be outraged by somebody who doesn't get it. Somebody will be like, you can't do that, and be outraged on behalf of somebody else, because outrage is all the rage now. So that's a new.
That's a T-shirt. Outrage is the rage.
I'm Bob Seger.
No, it's not. What would you? So you're getting called up to the comedy stage. What is your ride of choice, or like what would bring you to the ring, to the comedy stage?
Oh man, I feel like I'm sure somebody has to have already done like the Hannibal Lecter on the dolly, right? Has anybody been like so crazy that it had to be strapped down before the ring?
Yeah, like early 90s, a reference that will go over your head, but early 90s Sabu would, and then
I think I remember Sabu.
Yeah, we were all like, oh, Sabu's crazy, he's crazy, and then there was a video of him and RVD getting pulled over, and they're just like, we're not high. Like, you can talk, Sabu.
How much did that make you like Sabu more? Or you're like, I can't believe he's not crazy all the time? Like, how much suspension of disbelief did you need?
I think a lot of people, because RVD's gimmick at the time was, he was the cover of, Weed magazine? What's the...
High Times?
He was the cover of the High Times. So everyone was like, yep, I get it. That makes sense.
Have you ever read a High Times magazine? Every other page is just like, drink this and you'll pee out everything so you can get that job. Oh. Like, it's just like every other page.
There's a lot of marijuana use in the world of professional wrestling. I'd assume there is in comedy. Do people?
Yeah, go for it.
Go for what?
Smoke weed, man. I smoke. I get real terrified around people. I have like a negative reaction to marijuana. Done everything else, had a blast. Weed, I'm like, oh God, can I just hide under this table for the rest of the night?
Let's bring it back to to wrestling.
It's a family-friendly podcast.
No. Oh Jesus! I mean, we've already talked to him. I think they get the idea. So you didn't watch it as a kid then? Because I mean, I think we're the same age, so it's just like that's what was on the.
I'm at a loss because like I'm now the things that and with the most endearing of terms, like the nerds run the world now. So the video game guys and all that stuff, they can geek out on their comic books, and there's temples to comic books and comic book movies, and people will be like, Superman's, it's actually a hexagon that the logo is in, so that the new one, it's a triangle, and it's just not effective, and it just doesn't celebrate the tradition of Superman. And people will listen to that like it's a legitimate thing to be concerned about. And then there's sports people, and then that's like they just get angry about sports, and I don't care about like competition was lost on me at an early age.
Yeah, they're like, Ricardo is the greatest soccer player of all time.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Ricardo too, but I'm still not involved. But like in high school, so sports, like I never got to wrestling. I always went to I gravitated toward skateboarding or BMX because it was something you were just challenging yourself. It was never a competition.
I feel like because obviously my friend Punk is like a big skateboard kid and a punk rock kid and a comic. Were you a comic book guy?
No.
Yeah, and he was. It seems it's so weird where the worlds do meet and don't meet. I feel.
Well, I think it's like when you realize the performance and the theatrics of wrestling early on, because then when I was in college, after 7 years, because I was going to be a doctor, so that's why I went that long. Took me 7 years to get a 4-year degree.
In what?
Nothing. And they made me graduate. They were like, I went to Columbia College, Chicago. Sorry.
Thank you.
Since that's how we're...
You went to Chris Benoit University? What was-
Oh, you blew it. You blew it. I was trying to save your ass. on this one.
Sorry. You're good. Only 7 years? That's the wit of an 8-year at university, man.
Yeah, they're like, you just have enough credits. You have to graduate. I was like, I don't want to. It's like, I'm kind of having fun here.
Sure.
I figured out which classes to take to avoid accomplishing a degree. Like, 2 more of these classes and you'll get a fiction writing degree. I'm like, well, fuck those classes then. I'm going to go this way. I'm going to take some improv classes. Like, oh, a couple more of those, you'll get a degree in improv. I'm like, that's worthless, but I'm still going to stick around here for a little while longer. They're like, you just did enough. So just go. Pay us back for the money you borrowed and go.
So you got your after 7 years.
Yeah.
And you
then-
saw the theatrics of
Yeah,
it.
but then wrestling was picking up at that time too. So that was like 2000.
Yeah. Who
2001.
did you and Bronger like? Did you guys like relate to anyone, or did somebody like grab you? As...
I know. I mean, I'm thinking of what I remember and who was around that time. If you told me names, then I would remember. I just remember Mexicools were the one that stood out the most for me because I could not believe.
Who was around? Orlando Jordan, JBL. He was a
JBL.
cowboy turned rich millionaire.
I remember him. I kind of like that persona.
He came to the ring in a limo, way better than a lawnmower.
Yeah, I like the fake rich guys. I like the. I've done it. Worship me. I like that attitude.
That seems to be a big thing in wrestling.
Yeah, because it's the easiest thing to hate.
I get, yeah.
Right? You can always hate rich people.
And that's why Vince McMahon is an interesting character, because he's a real rich guy. And we all definitely hate him.
Your hate is legitimized.
Yes. Yeah, Alberto Del Rio was the Mexican rich guy. JBL was the Southern rich guy. Ted DiBiase was the rich guy with a slave.
Oh my God.
The $1 Million Man.
Yeah. He had a slave.
He had Virgil was, yes. Have you heard the Virgil stories going around?
No.
Oh, well, he's...
Was he a white guy?
Yeah, he was... No, was he a white guy? He was...
I'm searching for some sense of racial sensitivity in the world of wrestling.
in the world of wrestling. Slick, who opened his song, Jive Soul Bro, was sitting... There was a close-up of him eating fried chicken.
Oh, boy.
That's a real... video that you can watch on YouTube. The $1 Million Man. Yeah, his name.
Yeah.
Ted DiBiase was the $1 Million Man, and he had a man named Virgil who would just hand out money. And when I was a kid, he would, and I believe Rob Van Dam was one of the guys who did this. But when I would watch as a kid, they would be like, "I have so much money. Little kids, come into the ring and do something for $100." And they'd be like, "Fuck yeah." And so he'd be like, "Bounce this basketball 10 times." And he'd be like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then Virgil would kick it away.
I think I did hear about that one.
Yeah. And I don't know what that's the equivalent of. That's just the equivalent of a piece of shit, I guess.
Yeah. No, it is. What has anybody, like, this is what I want to know. Has anybody, like, when the fans get, they jump on the heel and get in their face? Because I was at the match 2 weeks ago.
The ICW show.
Yeah, the ICW show. And there's some guy, I forget which guy's arguing, but somebody in his fan was like, get in his face. He's screaming, like, and just spit his beer back on him. And as soon as the guy walked away, the guy in the audience was like, oh man, that was just awesome. Like he was just ecstatic that he got in an argument with the guy. But he looked seriously just as enraged as the wrestler was playing the character. I was like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
This is because the fans want to get into character and be
yeah.
real scumbags towards those wrestlers.
And it depends what wrestler, because one wrestler will walk away, but another wrestler will punch that man in the face. Has happened many of times.
So as a fan, do you accept that? You're like, I got punched in the face by that guy. What a great Sunday.
Hold on. Do I hear a cheer for yes, you accept that? Do I hear a cheer for no?
A group of guys over there hoping to get punched by wrestlers.
Your dreams can come true if you guys come see me tonight in the ring. I'll be there. Happy to do it. So you are so is Comedy Central, are you doing things over here?
Yeah, I'm still doing. Yeah, this voice that I'm currently destroying with drinking alcohol till sunrise every night. Yeah, it pays my bills.
Do they have? Is it the same Comedy Central UK?
No, I'm just phoning it in back to the States.
Well, we've known that. I've seen your act, buddy.
I was putting that one on a plate for you.
Yeah. So, what's Comedy Central over here? It's different.
It's just different programming.
But they can YouTube. Yeah. They can
if
YouTube.
It's, yeah, or I'm on the website or the XM channel and stuff, and it's just it's this dumb voice being like, tune in next week, South Park. I feel like the worst. I remind people to watch TV. Don't forget to watch TV. You know, one of the things ruining society. Don't forget to tune in. Workaholics will be on.
Have you done anything for wrestling?
No, I've never pursued the voiceover thing as a career. Comedy Central, like, you should do.
But I'm saying, has Comedy Central been like, here, Chris Jericho's doing a shitty miniseries? Sorry.
Is that true? And that's why it's.
He had a Comedy Central short, I believe. A web series.
Oh no, I do their radio and some of the web stuff, but I haven't seen any wrestling stuff come through. So.
When you do, we'll be there to cheer for you.
Have me on board.
I think that's. Any other wrestling things that come to your mind before we part ways?
I don't know. I saw the Wrestling Tuesday with Max and Yvonne, and at 38 years old, to just know like a sense of joy like that show brought me, and the ICW match, especially because it's comedians, so I knew them getting in the ring, like. It's providing. It's like, I don't ever believe it when somebody tells me like the comedy's doing something good. Like, you're really doing a good job. Like, I just go up there and talk on my ass for an hour. But then I saw a wrestling show. I'm like, oh, not only did I have fun, like I had a sense of joy that I hadn't had since I was a little kid. Like getting excited for the next wrestler to come out for the run, like just being so excited for something, and I hadn't felt that in a while. So I don't know, just keep it up and know that it does good things for people out there.
That's cool. That's a fun feeling because being around the comedians, I know. Like, sadly, I hear this. Like, I love coming to the Fringe, and I love seeing the shows, but I hear the sense of just, like, going up and do another set, like, this set has burned me out. But, like, I get, in the opposite way, I get the joy of going to watch people do shows. Yeah. Or, and I don't have to see, your show 26 times in a row.
And that's what I have to realize doing it 26 times in a row is like, oh, wait a minute, these people haven't seen it. So
right.
just because I feel like I've taken these jokes that I cared about 3 weeks ago, and now it feels like I'm just punching my own baby in the face over and over again.
That's great. So where's your show here?
On that note, let's promote that gig. I'm at the Underbelly venue off Cowgate, right up the way here, and that's at 10:10 every night at the Underbelly.
Great. And where are you at on the internet?
At Kyle Kinane. That's my Twitter, and I don't make anybody happy with that thing, so.
Including United Airlines.
Yeah, fuck United Airlines.
Yeah.
They don't sponsor this, do they?
No.
Fuck United Airlines.
And they never will. Kyle Kinane, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Hey guys, one of our sponsors this week is DraftKings.com. Last football season, DraftKings.com crowned more millionaires than any other one-week fantasy sports site anywhere. This season, the prizes are even bigger. You can start the season by winning $2 million. $10 million in prizes are up for grabs this season. $2 million for first, $1 million for second, and a whole lot more along the way. 1 week fantasy means no season-long commitment. It's fantasy football on demand, kind of like podcasting in a weird way. Play where you want, when you want, with who you want. Just pick your players, pile up the points, and pick up your cash. It's just that easy. It's not fantasy football, it's DraftKings. It's the big time. Hurry to DraftKings.com and use the promo code WRESTLE to play free for a shot at $2 million in the Week 1 Millionaire Maker. That's WRESTLE. That's the promo code. Put it in and get free entry at DraftKings.com. Do it now. That's DraftKings.com. Our next guest coming to the stage. I hope he's here. Yeah, all right. From what Kyle was talking about, from the wrestling from Max and Yvonne, please welcome Max Olesker. I realized this today. Yeah, I've never said your real last name. Did I butcher the shit out of that?
Or Butchers, yeah, no, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Olesker, but...
that was close.
That was pretty good. And Ivan's second name is Gonzalez, so there's a reason we didn't call ourselves Gonzalez and Olesker, because no one was going to give a shit about that.
No.
So Max and Ivan.
And if you're Ivan, I assume you're a Russian.
He's like half Argentinian, and it's a Spanish name as well, Ivan Gonzalez. So, yeah. Anyway.
Smart move, Max and
Max
Ivan.
and Ivan are simpler, yeah.
Yeah, you are looking nice, by the way,
you too,
on this
man.
audio podcast.
Oh, thank you. Please describe me for the folks at home.
Well, he's wearing the hottest looking suit and shirt I've ever seen, and I don't mean in sexiness, I mean in temperature.
It was a bad choice.
It was a horrible choice.
I fucked up.
In the Dungeon of Doom up top here.
Yeah. Did not
Fuck
judge this one well.
Yeah, Zodiac will be coming out from the back and pushing you. I don't know who else was in the Dungeon of Doom. Earthquake, the shark, the Yeti. Correct. You won on that one. The Yeti. You remember the Yeti?
No, the Dungeon of that was WCW, wasn't it?
That was past your time.
I was never that into old WCW stuff. That was it kind of passed me by.
Which is because you in the why I bring you. You're the ultimate mix of comedy and wrestling. I feel.
I'd say you're the ultimate mix of comedy. And wrestling.
Remember when I made that Chris Benoit University joke? Oh man.
Very good.
Oh man.
It was all worth it.
So we met. I mean, the alleged university. I don't know. We met when you were like a baby, no?
Yeah, I think, did we meet when I was, should I contextualize my past?
I think so,
yes.
yeah.
So I was a professional wrestler when I was kind of from 14 to about 20, kind of around the UK and bits of Europe.
And if you think he looks young now, what are you, in your late 20s?
28, yeah.
And 28, just imagine what he looked like at 14.
6 months old, like a fetus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was it.
Wrestling's first fetus.
Wrestling's first, the first.
You could have been Jesse and Fetus.
Yeah.
That was a good joke. It was no university joke, but it was good.
But yeah, so I trained at the FWA Academy as it was then, and wrestled lots of the preeminent kind of British wrestlers, including lots of guys who were still around, and a few went off to America and did it as a full career.
So who did you train and/or wrestle with that you remembered?
Various. Although at the time, I mean, it was actually sort of 2003, 2004 when FWA was kind of the sort of preeminent promotion. There were lots of American.
When I was there, you know.
Oh yeah, Big CC was in town. But yeah, I mean, British guys, people like Jody Fleisch and Johnny Storm were kind of at the top of their game at that point, and that they, as smaller wrestlers, inspired me to be a high flyer and to get stuck in. And then who came across from America? People like, I got to train and wrestle with Christopher Daniels, Daniel Bryan.
Never heard of him.
I don't know. Whatever happened to that guy?
Yeah.
Low-key. Ricky Marvin, the Mexican wrestler. He was fantastic.
He was cool.
Yeah.
Mexico.
Mexico. Hello. So yeah, kind of a broad selection.
And also guys that eventually went over to the States, like Paul Burchill, right?
Paul Burchill was, my fellow kind of trainee. PJ Black, who was Justin Gabriel and is now back to being PJ Black, I think, and gone kind of free agent. Nikita, who was Paul Burchill's incestuous sister briefly on TV.
I remember when they were pitching, because I was in OVW and they were pitching that angle.
Who was pitching it? Paul was pitching it.
Yeah, Paul and there was a writer friend.
What?
Yeah. Well, listen, at that point he had been the pirate and they had taken him off TV, so it was kind of like a do or die thing. And they were like, he's like, I got to get on TV any way I can do it.
Oh wow.
And he's like, if it means fucking my sister.
He's always had a lax moral compass, has Paul, but that is extraordinary.
Yeah.
I know that.
And Katie Lee Burchill. I'd watch them do their vignettes that they would then send to Vince McMahon to be like, this is our thing. And they were like really getting into it. Like, this is my sister.
Odd concept. I'd always thought that was thrust on Paul. I'm slightly
No,
concerned.
Paul did the thrusting on that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I came and watched your show. You guys do, you and Ivan do, you have a sketch show.
Yeah.
Is that what you would call it?
Well, not. I almost like a sort of like narrative character comedy show, but it's not a very catchy thing to tell people. So we kind of just tell them it's a sketch show, and then they come along and find out for themselves.
And you've been doing, how long have you been doing the Fringe?
A fair few years, sort of five years or so.
And you guys have done American festivals and Melbourne festivals?
Yeah, we've gone back to Melbourne for the last 3 years. We went to Adelaide as well this year. We've been to South by Southwest and did comedy there, which is where we first met Carl Kinane. I don't know
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
So you've seen success like in this world a little bit. Well,
Yeah.
what I want to say is like, how do you like have you brought stuff from wrestling to this world where usually there is? I mean, you know, there are people that kind of come dance in and out, but for the most part, like wrestlers aren't in this world. You're in like a locker room, quote unquote, of like theater and comedians. So
Yeah.
like they wouldn't know the wrestling tricks, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of.
And it's just like, oh, like you have 6 years in your back pocket of these carny wrestling things or moves that you could bring to it. Is that a thing?
Kind of. I mean, I basically at the time I'd always been into acting and performance and theatre before I got into wrestling. And I kind of, when I saw wrestling for the first time, which was like late 90s, I think, kind of like Attitude Era, Vince versus Austin, Raw, watched at midnight on my mate's Sky TV.
You mean you weren't drawn in by the Mexicools?
The Mexico, I mean, they came later. I was already a card-carrying Rey Mysterio fan by then. But yeah, like for me, that was a kind of, I saw that in the same lineage as like Jackie Chan films that I loved, or like Errol Flynn as Robin Hood, and kind of like action films in real life. So the theatrics and the athleticism both kind of got me.
And did you use so from the 6 years of wrestling or whatnot, like to put into like, let's say the show you did this year, is there like a hint of wrestling that you use at all, or is it two separate beasts?
They're mainly separate beasts, although, and I don't want to give away too much if you come and see our show, but there's a fairly acrobatic sex scene at one point.
Yeah, you do. Oh, I cannot say it.
Well, quite, but there are some you might recognize.
Yeah, I saw the lucha move that you used.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And that was totally a wrestling.
So yeah, wrap your minds around what that could possibly be.
Pretty great. And then you are the owner of the wrestling.
Well,
Explain how that all came, because that's 3 or 4 years ago when I heard about it, when Pac was on the show,
Yeah.
or Neville now, right? And I was just like, he's not funny. What? You know, like, I was like, because I know Pac. I know he's not this zany comedian. That was supposed to get a laugh when I said he's not funny, but fuck it. So I was like, man, and it got this award for best new show, and I was like, what is Neville doing that he's cracking up 1,500 people in a stadium? Stadium,
theater. Yeah, whatever. For one night, it's a stadium.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, I basically when I stopped wrestling regularly, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't like lots of fellow kind of British trainees who I saw kind of become really disillusioned and wretched and kind of miserable with the business. And if it didn't happen for them, they'd kind of turn their back on it and claim they'd always hated it really or whatever. And I never stopped loving it and enjoying it, but I just made this conscious decision that it wasn't going to be my career in life. So I just kind of wound it down, but still enjoyed it. Occasionally went and trained a bit and stayed in good contact with all my friends who still wrestled and things, including Neville and everyone. And then when we went up to Edinburgh that year, Ivan, I'd spoken to Ivan about this idea I'd have for a show, and then he drunkenly basically chatted up the owner of Pleasance, so the comedy programmer at Pleasance, and said, look, we've got this idea, and it turned out the guy was a massive wrestling fan. He said, look, we've actually got the biggest room that we have in Edinburgh for one night, and we could give it to you guys, and we'll produce it, and if you come to me with a full kind of idea, and we'll do it. So in the cold, sober light of day, we had this proposition, which was that we get a ring set up in the centre of the Pleasance Grand, and we book the best UK wrestlers that we possibly could, and then we get the best comedians that we possibly could, and we teach them as much wrestling as we'd have time to teach them, and let them go at it and see how it went.
So the key to success is to get a small Argentinian comedic man drunk.
That's been my technique. Yeah. Basically.
And so you guys won an award.
Yeah.
Which was what? Was the best
Yeah, it was
Fosters or
the
something?
Fosters Award. Yeah, it was the panel prize that year.
Which is interesting because Ivan had been shit-faced on Fosters the night
he had
pitched to
indeed.
the
Yeah,
show.
so it was all very appropriate.
Yeah, and wow, yeah, because it's such a big production, and I know from being around wrestling for so long how hard it is to promote a show and to get a ring and to get lights and to make a big show. But you guys easily pulled that off.
Well, no, never.
Through this guy. I mean, because you had this there for you.
It's still not easy, though. It's always been hellishly complicated and painful. It's been like a massive labor of love each time. And especially the first time, because you've seen how neurotic comedians are anyway, but pre-Edinburgh in like June and July, comedians are insane. They're just focused on their show. They can barely talk to one another, look each other in the eye. They're all just focusing on that. And I had to book time in wrestling schools in London and teach them enough stuff to kind of get through a match.
So what's the weirdest, I guess, do you have, like from a comedian, maybe the funniest character or gimmick?
We've had a few bizarre gimmicks. Tom Rosenthal, who's a very good comedy actor, we asked him what he wanted to be, and he decided from somewhere deep within himself that he wanted to be a kind of feral gimp character called Explosenthal. And he bought a skin-tight gimp suit from China. This was all entirely off his own.
Wait, hold on. So she just sold it to him?
He's back. So that was good. Humphrey Carr, who is fantastic comedian based in LA now. He was a time-traveling Nazi with a penchant for rare funk records called The Vinyl Solution.
I'll allow it. Yeah.
And all sorts of bizarre... every time. But the key is always never...
Never go full Nazi. That's the key.
It had an armband, but it had some notes on it. Always get the comedian... It's got to be a conversation. You don't just go, right, you're going to be a traffic warden and you're going to be a horse. Like, you want to talk to them and for them to kind of bring out whatever secret...
They're inner Nazi, yes. It's important.
That all I'm just trying to distance myself from that gimmick. But it was all Humphrey's idea, is what I'm saying.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, that's great, man. I had a great time. A lot of people love the show, and I love getting the feedback. And Theo Davis made this video that you guys can watch on my YouTube channel promoting the wrestling, and it's really great, well done. And I
still haven't seen it.
Oh man, you're in it too. So,
oh yeah,
it's pretty great. Where's your show on the Fringe?
Our show, Max and Ivan, The End, is on at 8:20 p.m. at the Pleasance Dome until the end of the run.
And where are you at on the internet?
At Max Olesker, if you can spell that, or if not, at Max and Ivan.
Wonderful. Max, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Max. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Oh, you're next. Oh, hold on. Well, we'll get you up. You're coming up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, next to the stage is one of my favorite comedians. He is from Canada, and he's funny. Please welcome Graham Clark to the stage. You know, Graham, I didn't want to say where you're from because I enjoy your stories about a certain family.
Oh, the Tanner family from Full House?
Not that family.
The Hart family. I'm from Calgary, Alberta. So I jealous.
You actually lived in the Hart Dungeon?
No, I didn't live in the Hart Dungeon. No, see, this is how rumors get started. We went on a school trip once to go to the Hart Dungeon.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
That's a field trip? They're like, guys, in January, we're going to the museum. In October, we're going to the library. In December, we're going to the Hart family dungeon.
Yeah, well, I didn't go to a very good school. And we met Stu Hart, and he's like, I guess he always has to prove how strong he is or something, because he crushed all of our hands. Like, we all shook his hand, and he was like, ah!
How old were you?
I don't know, it was probably like 11 or something. I have the same grip now that I had back then. Real soft like.
Learn how to shake hands. You're not a wrestler. I don't want to be a wrestler.
I don't even want to shake hands. Oh, thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah. I'm glad you made it. How you ran from your show.
Yeah, I took a cab here, the craziest cab ride I've ever been in. Like, and I didn't say, like, step on it or anything like that. He was just like, I'm going to go down the craziest, cobbliest road. And at one point, I bounced out of the seat and hit my head on the roof. And then they just have these like, you can't hear what the driver's saying, really, but he was just like, ha, 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 ha.
Wasn't there a Rikishi was driving the limo reference in there or something? That was a thing. I don't really remember. But I got to stick to the heart thing too.
Yeah.
You knew one of the hearts.
Yeah, like a couple of the brothers were substitute teachers in Calgary. And so
You mean they weren't giant wrestling superstars?
But they all looked like they substitute teach gym. So and
did they come all tanned and oiled up?
yeah, it was. We were the only school in the city that had a whole unit on oiling up. You can't wrestle without oil. So whenever I knew that we had one of the brothers as like a teacher for the day, I would bring like my rubber Bret the Hart wrestling doll and put it on my desk and just be like,
Now we've learned I'm no linguist, but I like you called him Bret the Hart, and his last name is Hitman.
Yeah,
Bret the Hart Hitman.
That's how his name goes, right? Yeah. And then every time I would sass him off, he would make me do what are they called, press-ups over here or push-ups? Push-ups, yeah. Either way, I couldn't do them. He would make me do 20 every time I would sass him off, and which was every day. Yeah, so I knew them, and then one of them was a firefighter as well, I think. So there were hearts everywhere.
Do we know which hearts they were?
One had a mustache, and one had blonde hair. So
maybe Keith and Ross?
Oh, Keith probably was, one of them. And I don't know the.
Well, he was
They
always.
were Mr. Hart, Mr. Hart, and Mr. Hart. And I guess they wrestled when they were teenagers. Because I guess if your dad is Stu Hart, first of all, you have to get that handshake thing down.
Hey.
And then at some point, you gotta wrestle, right?
Yeah.
And they were probably the letdown of the family, like teacher, fireman. My son, the fireman.
So you're again same age, and you're a kid of the '80s. Was that your guys, your era?
That was my era. Yeah. My favorite guy, I think. Like I loved Hulk Hogan because that was like requisite. But then I loved Ravishing Rick Rude. That guy was the funniest dude. And I would always talk about, because like we didn't know about kissing, right? Do you guys all know Ravishing Rick Rude?
Of course.
Okay. If
I
you
thought you were
don't,
going to ask, do you guys know about kissing?
yeah. Guys, I got to learn two things, handshakes and kissing. But like Ravishing Rick Rude would get a lady out of the audience at the end of the match. This is when I was like 8 years old. I was like, this is how romance happens. You wrestle somebody so good that you impress a lady. She comes into the ring, he kisses her, then she passes out.
Yeah.
So that's what we just assumed sex was. That you kissed a lady and she was so overtaken by the whole thing that she passed out.
And at any point were you like, I have to airbrush my crush onto my crotch?
Yeah, and my friends and I were really shitty at airbrushing. But yeah, I remember having a conversation with my friend like, that's how you do it. Like, and I was like, no, maybe not. And he's like, no, for sure. I have an older brother, and he confirmed. That's what romance is.
As a Canadian, you were still on the Hulk Hogan train.
Mm-hmm. Well, because he was just like the most famous guy,
Yeah.
and he was like, I feel like.
Sorry to cut you off, but I'm trying to think, because Bret Hart wasn't that popular. Like at that time, I feel Dino Bravo was the most Canadian guy, because he had like the Quebec flag.
Yeah,
and
but
Frenchie Martin was with him.
Everybody hated. It was the most embarrassing like Canadian one was the Mountie.
Yeah, okay.
I'm like, oh man. And his whole thing was like he tasered everybody. And then like a couple years ago, the real Mounties in Canada got in trouble for tasering too many people. So I wonder if they grew up watching the Mountie and we're like, yeah, that's how it happens. Yeah. No, Bret Hart was like such a big deal in Calgary because like in Canada, if anybody is famous from Canada, you have to like tell everybody that person's from Canada. So Bret Hart was like huge deal in Calgary. But I still liked Hulk Hogan.
And was there any other second Canadians?
Like other...
Yeah, because Bret Hart's number one. I get it.
Yeah. Oh, like other famous Canadian wrestlers?
Yeah, or that was your guys. I'm trying to like Dino Bravo.
We
the
liked
Mountie.
Davey Boy Smith in our house, even though he was British, but he came up through the Calgary wrestling scene.
Yes, and I also in our house I like that.
Yeah, well,
Was it the family was watching?
yeah, like we decided as a family. We liked his crazy cornrow hair. Yeah, he was kind of like an honorary Canadian. And then I don't know, who else was Canadian? Not really a ton of
Yeah, I
it was
guess-
all the Hearts, and then
It was everyone I guess who came from Stampede who
Yeah.
went into the WWF.
but like nobody that Bret Hart was the guy.
Did you ever go? Because the Calgary Stampede is an event in Calgary, right?
Yeah.
And they
It's
would
like
did you ever go to the live wrestling there?
Yeah. We would, but that was year round. There was a thing called Stampede Wrestling, and it was hosted by this guy with a hilarious toupee called Ed Whalen. And
Wait, his toupee was called Ed Whalen?
yeah, and he would just like the toupee was in control of the body just moved around like that.
Ed Whalen was he was he was like the voice of Stampede Wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, and his so we would watch it every week because it was WWF wrestling was on for an hour, and then Stampede Wrestling was on for an hour. So we'd watch the very well-produced WWF, and then the one-angle camera of Stampede. No, should we get a second camera for close-ups? No, people like the wide shot.
Should we get lights? Should we have our wrestlers work out?
Yeah, and finally, should we buy a ring? But yeah, it was like homegrown, and you would never know who the people were. So we just called them like this was the volunteers. We thought they were all people that the pro guy would show up, and then they would just canvass the audience right before and be like, "Who wants to wrestle the pro guy?"
Right?
That because they would be not in great shape. Like it just felt like your neighbor or your stepdad could just wrestle in Stampede Wrestling.
It probably was.
Yeah.
Let's be fair.
But yeah, we used to watch it every week, and my dad took us a couple of times, and I remember it being like really, really fun. And and I still go to live wrestling out in Vancouver, where I live now. Yeah.
ECCW is where I'm wrestling out there sometimes.
Yeah.
I guess maybe if we can harness together some of just the most ridiculous things just about wrestling or in the world of wrestling, things that sometimes you scratch your head at.
Oh, sure. Well, my favorite thing that I've ever seen at this ECCW is there was this great. I can't remember the name of the guy, but he was a heel, and this young girl, was in a wheelchair, and she had made signs for all of her favorite wrestlers. So like the new guy would come out, she'd like shuffle through the signs and like hold it up. And this heel like saw her, went through the audience, grabbed her sign and ripped it in half. It was the best thing. Like, and to her, she was having the best night of her life. So that was one of my favorite things.
There was a show on NBC called Wrestling Secrets Revealed. Do you remember that one?
Was that like the same as the Magician Secrets Revealed?
Yes. And there was a
Okay.
thing called the Stunt Granny.
Tell me more.
And they were like, you guys, they're like, look now as this man rips up the sign from this 89-year-old grandma. And they show like the dramatization of it, of the old lady holding up a sign and the guy coming in ripping it.
Right.
And then they go to the back and they're like, now wrestling revealed. And the granny is actually the Demolisher's grandmother, and she's in on it, and she's wearing foam pads underneath her outfits. And they show her like putting on pads as she's getting pushed over. And 17 years into wrestling, I have never once seen the stunt granny.
I want if I was ever a wrestler, that would be my gimmick, stunt granny.
Stunt granny.
Yeah. I'd come out and throw caramels in the audience and then tell the guy I'm wrestling what a nice boy he is. He seemed like such a nice boy.
Your finisher is the Werther's original.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the name of that? There was an older lady that wrestled like well into her.
Oh, Fabulous Moolah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did I think of
she was
that?
kind of stunt granny.
She was the original. She was OG Stunt G.
Yeah. Oh, stunt G. Yeah.
And then Mae Young also, who lived, I think, longer than her, who gave birth to a hand. Which they never revealed that secret on that show. I would have liked to see that.
Like to tag somebody into the ring? She did that?
That must have been. Well, it was Mark Henry and her made sweet, passionate love together. At the point she was probably in her 80s. Mark Henry.
Is this a real thing?
Well, by real.
Is this one of these secrets of wrestling things?
It was on my television, and everyone at the same time throughout the world put their own hand to their head. Maybe that's what that was for. And but it could have been for a tag.
What was who was the couple that like they got married and then they were going to consummate their marriage in the ring? Do you remember this?
Yes, that was Edge and Lita.
Okay.
Yes.
And who interrupted them?
God. I don't remember. Matt Hardy, maybe? Who? Ric Flair? He was, yeah, Ric Flair was mad that someone else was getting laid besides him. It wasn't even scripted.
But I love how they sold it so hard that they were like, how dare you interrupt? This is our wedding night in the ring.
We're trying to make love. Leave us alone. And they did. They put the covers over them. I feel.
And I was way older at the time, and I was like, maybe that's how sex happens.
Full circle. Oh, man. Graham, amazing. You have a show on the Fringe, right?
I do.
Can you plug that for me?
Every day at 5:20 in George Square. It's a show called Graham Clark Reads the Phone Book.
And I've seen it. And it's great. And he reads the phone book. Man, I don't want to get in, but in it you talk about like how there was no internet and like this is kind of the internet back in the day. The phone book. And I remember like whenever I would get the phone book, like and this is how obsessed like me and my culture are and these people. Like I can only assume like I would look up like wrestling like. I know there's like maybe there was a wrestling store in Chicago or something.
Yeah.
And I would look for wrestling or pro wrestling or WWE or any of the buzzwords. It's like it was the first Google, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was I had a friend. You know, like when you're a kid and you have a friend who's just a liar, like he just lies about everything. He kept telling me he had Macho Man's phone number. I was like, no way. And he's like, I do. I called him last night. And I totally believed that Macho Man's taking phone calls from some 7-year-old in Calgary. Yeah. I was like, how'd you get it? He's like, my uncle works for him. Anyways, and then I was like, well, why don't you call him and just let me listen? And he was like, no, he wouldn't like that.
Just me.
Yeah.
1-900-909-9900 was probably the phone number.
Yeah. And I ran into him years later and I was like, that was a lie, right? Like, you didn't actually have Macho Man's phone number.
I thought you ran into Macho Man. Macho, you weren't taking phone calls.
And I was like, did we take phone calls from Justin Cook?
Where are you at on the internet, Graham?
GrahamClark.com. And at Graham Clark on Twitter. And Graham Clark was taken on Instagram.
Yes. And also, Graham has a great podcast that I've been a guest on twice, Stop Podcasting Yourself, one of my favorite podcasts in all the world. I recommend you listen to it. And thank you for being on the show,
Thanks
Graham
for having me, Cole.
Thanks, buddy. Amazing. Hey guys, one of the great sponsors for this show is Topps. The same Topps that brought you the 1985 Kirby Puckett rookie card or the 1986 second year Puckett card or the 1987 Kirby Puckett card with the wood frame around it. They're still at it but have smartly moved into the digital world. They're promoting Topps Huddle, featuring officially licensed NFL PA digital cards. collect your favorite players from your favorite teams. For me, it's the Bears. You can still open packs and trade with your friends, but now you're doing it through your smartphone. There's a lot to the Topps app. Play your cards and earn points in real-time daily fantasy-style games based on how your players on your cards are doing. Over 300 million Topps digital packs have been opened since 2012. If you're a football fan, and especially a fantasy football fan, this is a must app to download. Download it free in the App Store or Google Play and get 10 free packs today. That's Topps.com or the Topps app on your phone. Please welcome to the ring. I brought a wrestler. Drew Galloway, please. Drew. Hey, Drew. How are you? Taking your sweet ass time. One of my favorite teams. That. On your chest. The Sainsbury's. The Catterberries.
It's the national team. When you're in Scotland, this is your favorite team coat.
Is it?
It is a national jersey.
You know, when I have no clue what RBS is.
It's a terrible bank.
Yeah. Which is. But I know what IBS is. And I remember what someone saying, like, I have to go to RBS. And I just remember how weird it got.
Sure this isn't Grado. This he says every 2 seconds. True story.
He has IBS. You know, sometimes as wrestlers...
Irritable bowel syndrome.
Yes.
Because I don't know.
Sometimes as wrestlers, we want to keep this mystique of, like, cool wrestlers. But Grado's just like, fuck, I got to shit so bad. It almost makes him, I guess... I bet...
That's not a character.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's 100%.
No, it is. Because what you guys don't know is, like... In real life, Grado is a wrestler, but Graham Stevie's like Graham Stevely? He's like a banker who works on like the stock exchange. In my head, it's amazing. Just imagine if he was just like a posh piece of shit.
I just can't.
No, it's
in
hard.
real life. In real life, he's 10 times over the top than Grado actually is. You just need to put a camera on him. You two guys on a reality show is money. Like that guy in real life, without his girlfriend, he would just die.
Ooh, how can I break up this relationship? I'd like to see a man die in the ring. So people hate you now.
Apparently.
You're a hated man.
Just in Glasgow. It's weird. All over Scotland, you know, I get along with everybody. I'm from Scottish. It's nice to be back home. England, people like me. And I come back to Glasgow, for some reason, people turned on me, and I don't know why. It hurt my one feeling that I had left.
I was like, Drew's going to be on the podcast, and people were like, boo! I was like, I thought he was a pretty good get.
I don't know.
What'd you do? You pissed people off?
Apparently, I don't know what happened. Just specifically in Glasgow, people started to turn, and I guess they polled everybody, and most commonly given answer was he joined TNA. And what I don't understand is you get half the roster begging and pleading to get on British boot camp, and they get rejected, and TNA called me, and as ICW champion, I wanted to get attention on ICW, so I go there with the agreement that I'll stay with ICW as well as the other company that's helped me build my name, therefore I'm building ICW. Well, the other guys are begging to be on the show, and I'm asked to be on the show. I do everything I said I was going to do in my original promo. Yeah, people turn on me because they don't see the bigger picture, so whatever. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because whether anyone likes it or not, I'm doing it for ICW, so I don't care what you think. Scene.
Sorry, I didn't mean for it to get controversial.
Oh, no, I just didn't understand what was going on. I was like, I'm working pretty hard. I'm going to stick to what I believe in because in the end, I don't care. And now I'm having fun. Since I was gone from WWE, it was just, I want to wrestle. I want to have fun. I want to get eyes on Scottish wrestling. It's on fire right now. I did the big promo coming back to ICW. Everything I said has happened thus far, except television. But in reality, the on-demand is the future. We don't need television. The on-demand is so big. When you look at the views we get, Rhino and I fought in the streets in Mary Hill, 100,000 views in 2 days. Without television. That's unbelievable.
What's Mary Hill?
So,
Who's Mary? Is Mary? Is that Is that the stunt granny, Mary Hill?
It's a lovely street in Glasgow. Lovely street in Glasgow. It's pretty much where everybody gets knifed.
Oh. So why would that get more views than anything else?
So I have no idea.
That seems like...
I was excited. I was fighting Rhino, a guy I used to be terrified of and love as a kid in ECW, the last ECW champion. And obviously everyone compares ICW to ECW. So fighting against the original ECW last champion, Rhino, the man beast Gore, was such a cool experience for me. And then, once I got into it, I can kind of get carried away in matches, as you know. So it was fun to get carried away with Rhino and I kicking each other's ass in the streets of Glasgow.
I love how descriptive you are. Tell me, Rhino, the last ECW champion, 6'2", 240 pounds, born on a Wednesday. His mother gave birth to him, was in labor for 27 hours.
I know, all these little facts, like I tell everybody, like the character they see now is not a character. Like, I'm the biggest smart mark ever. I wanted to be like the voice of the smart marks. I don't even know what TNA referred to me as, the voice of the people. I was like, come on, the voice of the smart marks. I say what a wrestling fan thinks because I'm the biggest wrestling fan. It's what I wanted to do. I know about the documentary. I love the documentary. One of the characters is Skullduggery, if you remember.
Wait, from what documentary?
The NBC one, The Secrets of Wrestling Revealed.
Yeah, Skullduggery.
I used to study that thing.
Yeah.
That was like, oh my God, they're showing me the inside secrets.
And like the main guy giving it away was like clearly who it was. And they're like, this is Charlie Schmace. It's like, I know Harley Race when I see him.
And now you know the secrets.
Yes. And who else? There was like Mike Modest. It was all like those.
I remember trying to figure out who it was as well on the internet. Like, who was on that show? Like,
Skullduggery. There was a reptile man.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Slither?
Yes, Slither.
Essentially, it was pro wrestling on NES into an NBC show.
Oh, I love that thing. That was my study guide.
That was it. That's how you learned how to wrestle.
Oh, yeah. And the books, I think we talked about it in the podcast last time, that when I was 10, I sent away to America for The Secrets of Pro Wrestling 1 and 2, Percy Pringle, Dennis Brent, awesome books.
Yeah.
Told me to keep kayfabe, and as a 10-year-old, I was like, oh, brother, I got to keep kayfabe. Kept in a briefcase at school. Everyone's talking about the matches. I know how they work, because I'm keeping kayfabe, so I'm playing along with everybody. So that's the kind of wrestling fan I was, and still am to this day.
So you knew the secrets at a young age, but did you know how to make love to a woman like Ravishing Rick Rude?
I still don't know how to make love to a woman like Ravishing Rick Rude, nor will I ever.
Was that a thing on your mind? Because that wasn't necessarily a wrestling secret.
No, it wasn't a thing on my mind till you talked to brother there, and now I can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah. I guess if you say you're the voice of the smart mark, like what else are you looking to change in this world of wrestling? Do you have a thesis and a statement?
Things are going absolutely delightful in wrestling right now. Like I always say to everybody, like wrestling is the healthiest it's been for the entire time I've wrestled. 15 years, you've wrestled 17. I'm sure you feel the same. Wherever we travel,
I don't feel that healthy. I'll be honest.
No, my body feels like dog shit. I turned 30. I feel about 90. You see the way I'm walking up here. But just all the companies right now have got the right idea. Instead of everyone trying to compete with WWE, you're never going to be WWE. Why be a second-rate sports entertainment? That's their market. Leave it alone. You've got the Ring of Honors, the Lucha Undergrounds, the TNAs, ICW here, the companies with their on-demands. They're all trying to be something different. And that's how wrestling's going to thrive and succeed. And now people can make a full-time living from wrestling. Now I speak to people in independents who have not done these shows, but they make a full-time living because wrestling is healthy again. And if all y'all keep supporting it the way you have, like everyone's going to keep busting their ass. There's so many guys that believe in it, and that's what's going to make wrestling thrive and succeed, and it's fucking awesome to be part of it.
There it is. When I talk to people like before, I guess, kind of before the Vice documentary and then the BBC documentary, like, and people tell me like, yeah, Grado's like a legit star, and he's like on these shows, and he's like, because in America, it's obviously like such a different world. So like the Scottish pop culture people are completely different than, the American pop culture people. So like, have you noticed the difference? Like, because when you left for America to become a star and then came back, are you like on, and not soap operas like Grado? I know you're not a weird, chubby policeman that he plays. But is there like has I guess the larger community kind of taken you on as like one of the spokesmen of Scotland or of Glasgow? Does that make sense?
I know what you're saying. It's different. Like Grado and I are, as you say, different people.
No.
Like very different.
Only in workout regimen.
But yeah, like in Scotland, like you say, most Americans do not understand how over he is. He's so likable. He's the underdog. He his accent's still the same. Like mine is a bit messed up now. I'm sorry. I've lived in America for 8 years. Second most popular poll thing. Why don't we like Drew? He talks funny.
Wait, they legit took a poll?
No, this is like people have told me like.
I'm an idiot.
But it is one of the things that came up. But yeah, like he's obviously a different market. He's the more serious, lovable underdog. I'm a pretty serious guy. Obviously look a bit different, look more American, I guess.
But you were the first, not the first Scot, because I guess the Highlanders did it.
Yeah, well, one of them lived in Scotland, but they moved to Canada and lived there for most of their life. I was the first guy signed from Scotland. Like when I was in university, I went to Glasgow Caledon the street, and I was signed from there in my last year. And that was the goal, because I had no plan. I was at uni just to get the money to keep wrestling and keep partying the whole time. Like no plan. I need to be a wrestler and hurry up because it's my last year at uni.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I got signed in my last year.
Yeah, and so you were like there. I mean, there must have been a fun. Like, hey, this is our guy. And not just in the wrestling community. Like, I remember seeing a news article or a TV, like the news was like, Drew's going away.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's, everybody at the time when I got signed, it was a big deal because I was the first guy. Yeah. Came from Scotland. I was careful what I was doing because I was going to WWE, and obviously I was worried about what I was saying. And I think at the time, like I had such a thick accent, no one could understand me. I was going to say, you remember what it was like when I first got to OVW. Yeah. Like you couldn't understand me, and no one could understand me because my accent was so thick, and I still mumble by nature. But like Vince sent me to speech lessons, so I enunciate all the time now. But God, I was going to say something about Grado. I got off topic for a second there. Oh yeah, try to explain to people TNA when he's there. Like people like saying to me, I don't get it. And I was like, you just need to spend one day in the UK. It doesn't have to be Scotland, but it's particularly Scotland, but England, anywhere, and just watch the people. Like, they love him. Like, don't just go, I like this guy. They genuinely love him, invested in him. And it's just, I think it would translate if he was on American TV long enough. It's just they struggle, obviously, to understand.
Yeah, but sometimes, and it's kind of like you were saying. It's just like sometimes it's just for the ones that get it, like I don't know. I feel this way a lot about my career. It's just like there's a lot that just don't get it. And it's like, I can't spend my time telling them why you should get it.
Yeah, exactly. It was the same here for him. It was exactly the same. I always get my finger on the pulse and spoke to my mates here. What was going on? They're telling me about him. I'm watching his interviews, the original ones, when he's trying to get on the ICW show. And I'm like, man, this guy's hilarious. Yeah. And you got the guys backstage as serious wrestlers. So, like, talking crap about him, like he can't wrestle. I'm like, mate, if he's bringing people in, I do not care who can wrestle, who can't wrestle. The place for everybody, and in the end, you need fans there to see you wrestle, because if the match really happened, if nobody actually sees it, and he's a guy that brings in people.
And at the end of the day, he could set up a kebab shop and sell kebabs.
Heck yeah.
And I think that's his true calling, and he'll bring them in. Tell me about the big show that's happening in Glasgow for ICW.
November, someone help me out, 14th, 15th? The 15th November. It's the SECC. This isn't just a big show. This is a huge show. Like, this is everything ICW has done so far has been leading to this show. It's bigger than anything any other company except WWE has attempted to do.
It's like it holds like 5,000, right?
5,000 people, 5,000 capacity. The biggest we've done so far is the Barrowlands 2,000, which we sold out in advance every time, which blows my mind. I used to go to concerts there when I was a kid. It's been there forever. Rolling Stones have played there. It's just a big historical venue for Scotland, and to wrestle there twice in the main event sold out. I remember last time my dad and I were the last two to leave, and I went, stop a second, Dad. I just wanted to take it in. I was like, wow, there's a kid, like thinking I'd main event this place and be the last person leaving when they're sweeping up was unreal. And then to go for the SECC, that's a like bold Dallas and Dunk. I don't know if you know who Dunk is. He's another guy behind the scenes, one of the reasons for the success of ICW. I just believe in the product so much. I've got so much balls, and that's why ICW succeeded, is the balls, and that's what makes it different. Why people, gravitate towards it. They're just willing to take chances, and this is the biggest chance we've taken. And I guarantee, like, I'm sure y'all are going to be there. You're fans of ICW. This is going to make the world pay attention. The people who know ICW's name around the world, wherever I travel, they talk about ICW now. Ask me questions. Ask if they can get booked. But this is the show that's going to make everybody in the world turn around and go, what the fuck is going on in Scotland?
That's amazing. Yeah, and if I've learned anything, people love balls.
They love balls. So, can't get enough.
It's the balls that brings them. Drew, we'll be seeing you on ICW and everything. Where are you at on the internet?
I'm at Galloway Speaks. That's my Twitter. Facebook, I don't know, it's the one that's verified. It's a blue tick.
Vince got it verified for me.
Yeah, it's the only perk I got is the chosen one.
That's what he chose. What'd you choose for me? Oh, I got you verified. Chose that for you, buddy.
Yeah, no Instagram. All those other ones are fake. I see some dodgy pictures showing up there. It's not me.
Sure it is.
It's not me on Tinder either. I got tweets about Tinder legit saying, "Is this you?" Swipe left or right. I was like, "Oh, they caught me."
Well, it depends what you look like. It may or may not be me. Drew Galloway, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, buddy. See you over there. All right. That's yours, man. That's yours. Bear with me as I finish this up. That's the show for this week. I appreciate you guys coming out. A big thank you to you guys for sitting here at Studio 24. Give yourself a round of applause. Thank you very much. And before we get out of here, let's get into some plugs and... There it is. ColtMerch.com and DigitalColt.com is where to support. Twitter and Instagram at Colt Cabana. ColtWrestling@gmail.com is my very public email. CutMyPromo.com, and I have Fringe reviews on my YouTube page. Watch on the YouTube. ColtCabana.com. I got a P.O. box. Send me something fun. Upcoming Saturday the 29th, I'll be in Dundee, Scotland. Come see me in China. SWE. Sunday the 30th, I'm in Glasgow. I'm doing a live podcast, and I'm doing the ICW show, obviously finishing off my Scotland run. And I got a Fringe show every single night, 11 p.m. Brendan Burns and I are in a yurt talking bad comedy. September 3rd through the 5th, Cedar Rapids, Waterloo, Clinton, Iowa, GlobalForceWrestling.com. Friday, September 11th, Cleveland, Ohio, AIWrestling.com. Saturday, September 12th, ProWrestlingSyndicate.com, Brooklyn, New York. Sunday, September 20th, St. Petersburg, Russia. Come on, join me. NSWrestling.ru. Are you going to Russia? Yes, I am. Big thanks to you guys here. Big thanks to everybody at home listening. Thanks to Studio 24 for hosting it and ICW for setting it up. Thanks to Cable Guy Jeff and Stu Stone, Matt Jenkins, the Kid Russell on the music, Dane Miller with some tech. Highspots.com, where you can get so many direct downloads. You can get a gear, you can get ring, you can get masks, you can get t-shirts, you get so much cool stuff over at highspots.com. OneHourTees.com, who help support ProWrestlingTees.com. That's where you can directly support your favorite independent wrestlers. Buy a t-shirt from them so they get the money and the man doesn't. And tweakedaudio.com/Colt, the earbuds that I use. Get over 30% off and free shipping just because you listen to this show. Let's hear it one more time for our guest, Kyle Kinane, Max Olesker, Graham Clark, Drew Galloway. This has been The Art of Wrestling for Colt Cabana. I am Colt Cabana. Thanks.